Hello and welcome to another episode of Book Journey Mentor Uncut. As you're coming into the broadcast, please do say hello, tap the screen, show us some love, let us know where you are watching from. Let us know if you've always thought about being an author. So if you're new to this channel or this show, my name is Danni Blechner. I'm an author, book journey mentor, founder of a company called Conscious Dreams Publishing. We work with people from all over the world, people with powerful messages and stories to share, and we help them to get their powerful messages and stories out there in the form of professional books. Behind me are just some of the 80 plus books that we have published over the last 4 years. I've mentored over 190 authors, helping to develop their skill set in not just publishing and writing, but social media, branding, book marketing, halo reel, PR, and most importantly, speaking and confidence. So this show is really a show to really highlight and showcase new and up and coming, as well as established authors who have something of value and worth to share and to say. Thank you so much, Laurel, for sharing this out. I'm absolutely passionate about providing a platform for unseen, unheard authors so they can have their voices heard and stories shared so that they can educate, inspire and empower people for generations to come. So for this episode, we have the awesome and amazing Rio Merrix, who has published, well, it's not published yet, it's out on the 28th of September, a beautiful poetry book called When in the Wilderness. Have a look at that cover, isn't that gorgeous? If you're wondering who is Rio Merrix, I'm just going to read a little bit of her bio actually before you meet her. Please send us some hearts and some love, show us some encouragement. This is her first interview for her book. So Rio is a self-love, self-healing advocate who's spent the past 10 years encouraging people to find the power of who they are. During her time of being homeschooled, she wrote a piece in her local newspaper about finding hope while living with chronic illness. It was then she fell in love with the power of storytelling and went on to study creative writing at Birkbeck University of London. When she isn't writing poetry, you can find Rio with her head stuck in a book, my kind of woman, recording for her podcast or spending time baking for her family in her family home that she shares with her husband and daughter in East London. So we're going to be speaking with Rio. This is her very first book, her debut book, When in the Wilderness, coming out on the 28th of September. So let's bring her in and say hello. Hello, Rio. How you doing?
I'm good. You?
Good. I'm good, thank you. How does it feel? I know you haven't got your proof copy yet. I seem to have a copy and Rio still is waiting for a proof copy. So how does it feel to have a book out there? I know it's not out until the 28th, but how does it feel to have written and published a book?
I don't actually think it's hit me so much yet. I think I've just kind of been going with the flow, and each time the picture pops up and I see it, I'm kind of like, oh yeah, I wrote that. And it's sort of, I don't know, it's a really surreal moment for me because I've been wanting to do it for so long, and now that I've done it, it kind of just I'm still taking my time with it. I'm still trying to process it, to be honest.
Yes, I think you need the book in your hands to actually get that feeling. That's that final kind of reality. So you kind of mentioned before you've always wanted to write a book. So is writing something you've loved? Because I have noticed before, like on social media, specifically that the way you tell stories and how you devise your posts, they're really capturing and they really get to the heart of people. So is writing something that you love to do?
Yeah, I've always loved to write. I used to write when I was really little, back in primary school. I used to write plays and songs. And then kind of towards secondary school, I got really sick and really needed an outlet. I needed something to make me feel human and allow me to express myself. And really, when I was about 15, that's when I knew this was really something I was really passionate about. And I also used to journal. So I used to journal every day from about maybe 8-9 years old. And that really fueled my passion for writing as well.
And what does it feel like? Because I used to write a diary as well, actually. What does it feel like to read those, journals years later?
I still think it's incredible, and I think it is such an incredible tool to look back. And I'm really glad and I'm really happy that I can look back, like 10 years ago, plus years ago, and see my journey and some of the things that I felt and why I felt that way. And you know, behavior and what was going on at the time in my life, and how much I've grown as a person and as a woman, it's really powerful. And every time I read them, I always get a little bit emotional, because I always think, oh, I remember that day. Or yeah, so it's great. It's a great, really powerful tool for me.
100%. We are definitely on the same page with that. So your book, When in the Wilderness, you were talking about being women. So I'm just going to read the first line for those who don't know anything about When in the Wilderness so far. So When in the Wilderness is a collection of poems about the evolution of women, covering topics such as relationships, self-love, mental health, and the rebuilding of oneself when life heavy winds blows. This book is designed to empower women into loving the very essence of who they are. So what does that mean to you then, self-love? And we're diving straight into it. What does that mean to you, self-love as a woman?
Wow. Diving straight into it. Yeah. For me, it was really about understanding that, I think in this day and age as well, we talk so much about self-love, and it's become such a broad topic. But for me, self-love, it saved my life, because really, you know, I was at this point of not feeling comfortable within myself. I didn't quite know what was going to happen in my life. I was sick, you know, these type of things. They were really deep issues. And I think what I had to do was understand that to love myself doesn't always mean that I have to like myself, or I have to like my behavior, or understand why I do some of the things I do. But it is showing myself enough compassion and enough awareness, self-awareness, during those moments, and loving myself through any process, really, even the tough bits, even you know, as well as the really great things that happen. There needs to be a lot of love from myself to get through those really tough situations in life too, those tough seasons.
So embracing it, you know, people think of self-love and they think, you know, I love myself, I'm amazing, this is great about myself. Like you said, it's like loving those dark bits and those deepest, darkest shadows that we all have, the good, the bad, the ugly, which is to really embrace the essence of who we are. You go by the Awakened Wordsmith. Tell us a little bit about this title. I love it.
Thank you. It was really about the process of becoming this awakened being through writing, and what that really means for me is being conscious. I'm an empath, so I'm very kind of, I feel a lot of other people's feelings and energies, and including my own. And I feel everything on a really deep emotional level. So as soon as I started writing, that core essence of who I am as a person, when people are reading my posts or they're reading my work, they're really reading parts of me. And so it does invigorate something inside of me, and it awakens parts of myself that connect with other people. And so that's where that has come from, that there is an awakening and a shift that happens when I start to write.
I love it. I feel like there's book 2 already, but we're going to stick with book 1. So your book is split up into 3 parts. You've got you've got the body, the mind, the soul. I know that you spoke a lot before the book, and my sort of personal knowing of you, about loving your body and body image. Can you just speak to us a little bit about that? What is that, and what got you? Why is this important to you?
From very young, obviously having a chronic illness, there was always talk about my body, and there were conversations going on from very, very young. I've had diabetes since I was 3.5 years old. So there were so many conversations going on about my body in front of me, but not to me. And I spent a lot of my life hearing about my body and the things it should be doing, and, you know, the things it wasn't doing, and how unperfect it was. That I sort of carried that into my adolescence, and, you know, my teens, and even into adulthood. Quite early on into my adulthood, I kind of was carrying this really heavy weight of, I'm never quite getting something right. There's always something off, and I'm not getting that balance. And it's really exhausting. And it's funny, because most of us are really doing that every day. We're constantly seeking this perfection. We don't you know, once we get there, we might get there and then we'll want something else. You know, it's just the way it works. For me, I really needed rest. I needed to rest. And that word for me was so broad, because it was like, I need to rest in this season. I need to rest in this body. I need to appreciate that I'm here and I've got to this point. And all the amazing, brilliant things that my body does on a daily basis. So that for me is the body of my message, is that, you know, no
I love that,
matter
the
what
body
there
of your
is.
message.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't do that on purpose. Yeah, that's the message, is that there is time, there is always time to find ourselves. It's always the right time to find ourselves, and it's always the right time to love ourselves where we're at. Even if we have, you know, health goals or whatever it is that we've got, for those things to manifest, we would need to love where we're at now.
I love that. Thank you. So what was a challenge when you were younger actually became your greatest purpose, in the sense that you're helping a lot of young girls and women in terms of embracing their body image and writing this book and being able to talk about it now. So everything for a reason.
Yeah, 100%.
If you have just tuned in, you are watching Book Journey Mentor Uncut. My name is Daniela Blechner, interviewing the also amazing Rio Merrix, who is the debut author of When in the Wilderness, a beautiful collection of poems to help. I mean, men can read this as well, but it's mainly aimed at women to empower them to embrace themselves, mind, body, and soul. So, yeah, let's dive into this. And who would you say specifically this book is for?
Oh, I actually think it's for everybody. I mean, it is geared towards women, but I mean, anyone from, I'd say, maybe like 16, 17, all the way up to however far you want to, you know, whatever age you're at. I think it's for different stages of life, and I think whatever stage anybody's at, there will be a connection to it, whether it's something you've been through already, whether it's something you're going through right now. I think there is a connection for everyone of all ages.
What role do you think then, let's look at young people, for example, what role do you think media or some of the images that are seeing, and especially social media as well, because I think the pressures are a little bit different. Do you think this has an impact on, first of all, their body image, and then we'll move to mental health once we've kind of addressed the body aspect of it? So do you think this plays any role in the pressures they may feel around their bodies?
Oh, 100%. I think social media is such a great platform to connect with people, but it can be quite dangerous, because we're constantly looking for that connection, and especially in this period of time where we're going through these really uncertain times, we're constantly picking up our phones. And I think because we're looking for that connection, especially when you're a young person, you might not even know you're looking for connection, but that's what, you know, we're all looking for, is human connection, so we can relate. So it's dangerous, because there are things that I look at constantly. Sometimes I'm scrolling through Instagram and I see all these things, and I stop and I look, and these things go in subconsciously and they stick there. And we may not realize it, but then when we go to look in the mirror, what pops up in the back of our minds is the Instagram picture that we lingered over for a good 20 seconds. So yeah, I do think it does have this huge influence, especially on young people. And I do think there's a disconnect generationally, because you know, my parents, for example, they don't quite get the aspect of social media. They don't get the aspect of how powerful it could be, and also how dangerous it can be. So I think we do need to be careful, and we do need to keep having conversations, because it can be really detrimental to the way we see ourselves. Yeah.
And when the second part of your poetry leads to the mind, so can you give us an example of one of your poems? I don't have your book with you, if you can remember. What was that poem that you wrote that really wanted to get to the mind of a person?
The Art of Self is one of my favorite poems that I wrote, because it has this really strong there is this really strong femininity. That poem was all about the power of like my femininity, the mental side, the mental aspect of hitting, you know, when you hit rock bottom, you kind of understand where you are, where you're at, who you are, and then grow from that place. And I loved writing that because it really felt like, wow, this is what the art of self-love is. It's going through the stages of not understanding who I am, not liking some of the things that I do, being angry at the world, and then, you know, harnessing the power of all that and coming out of that really, really strong. It was one of my favorite poems to write.
I feel like we need to hear this. And you don't have to have your poems on you, so
I can get them.
Or I can read it from the book.
Yeah, you want me to read it? You want to read it?
Okay, I'll read it then. Let us know in the comments. Would you like to hear this poem? Where are we? What page is it? The Art of...
It should be...
I don't know why I just threw myself into doing this now. I feel like people need to hear this. Remind me the title of the book there.
It should be The Art of Self. It should be in the first
in the
section.
mind section.
Should be in the first section.
Oh, the first section.
Might be under body.
Oh dear. I really want to find it now. I've got the imprisonment of oneself. No,
not the same one. I've lost my phone, so I won't.
Oh, I've got it. Page 29. Here we go. Okay. Page 29. Okay. Right. Get people up enough. Okay. The Art of Self. And loving myself has never meant that I always like myself. It just means that I can revel in my brokenness, beat on the drum of my chest, when I am in my depths and make music. I'm able to transform my wholeness into a whole new level of whole. I am the definition of art. The love of oneself is messy, strange, and undone, and it's mine to make. Love it. How does it feel hearing your own poem read?
Very odd. Very odd. Yeah. It's actually nice though, because you get to hear, I guess I get to hear how it sounds, how somebody else is reading it, how they're interpreting it, and then how they're speaking it. Yeah. Which does make a hell of a difference for me. So yeah.
I love that one. To me, it's about embracing, like we said, like the messy, the everything, and it's for us to come undone, should we so wish, and from that place. I think it was J.K. Rowling who said, "From rock bottom is a platform on which she built her success, in which she skyrocketed to her life." And a lot of artists, a lot of creatives, really come from that dark place of, you know, being at rock bottom and coming through the other end.
Yeah.
What is your hope? How do you want people to feel as they're reading these poems? What's your hope for your audience?
I think that's such a great question. I think what I want and what I've always wanted when people read my writing is to know that whatever they feel, they're not alone in what they feel. Because I spent so much of my life feeling like I was the only person that was feeling the things that I felt, or had been through some of the things that I felt. And I felt things so deep, like I was saying earlier, I felt things so deeply and still do feel things on such a deep level that sometimes that can really make you feel isolated, because it seems like the rest of the world is sort of getting on with things and, you know, is really good at pacing over things and getting on. And I wasn't. I was always this really deep person. And so I hope that when people read it, that they know that whatever they've been through, they're not alone in. And I think the beauty of these poems is that some of them are very short and snappy. And so when you read them, whatever you interpret them as, it's how they connect. I know they're going to connect differently to each person. And for me, that's the most powerful takeaway from this, is that I know people will be able to connect in so many different ways. And that's my hope for it.
Beautiful. Things can be interpreted in so many different ways depending on your level of where you're at in your journey, I guess. And that links back to what you're saying in the beginning. Instagram, I think, is a huge one. Scrolling through Instagram, it's so easy to do, and it seems like everyone's got their lives together. It seems like, you know, all these entrepreneurs are doing so much better than you, and their houses are just beautiful, and they're all white and like, you know, beautifully decorated and minimalist, and you've got like, you know, a little tip in the corner over there somewhere. Or, you know, you've got people with their fabulous beach bodies who just look, you know, seemingly what we're supposed to believe is amazing. It kind of enforces that sense of isolation as well. What would you say to, let's look at sort of young girls and women specifically, younger women specifically, women who are feeling like they are alone, that they don't quite cut the mustard. Like you said, everyone's getting on with their lives. Everyone's seemingly on the surface, because only what we see on the surface is what they choose to show us. But we believe that that is the life that they're living, and we feel really isolated and alienated and alone. What would you say?
What would I say to those?
To that young girl who's just feeling like a misfit, ugly, not good enough.
There's so much I could say. We could probably do a whole other interview. No, I would say that whatever you think you're not enough of, you are, because you're enough as a whole. And those, some of the things I would say, I think, to any young girl, any young woman, are the things that I wish I could have said to myself when I was, 11, 12, all the way, 15, all those seasons, is that you're enough. You're enough just as you are. It doesn't matter what colour, what size, what sexuality, what gender, like however you identify yourself, it doesn't matter. You are enough. You don't need to conform. Is just this massive message for me, is that you really don't need to conform.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And we're going to dive in, drop your book, sorry. We're going to dive into the soul aspect of your book. Do you feel that quite often people sort of focus on the body and the mind and the thoughts, the positive thoughts, that we forget to link back to the soul?
Yeah, 100%. The three are interconnected for me. I think the three, body, mind and soul, it's one voice, and it's kind of like an engine. And if one of those parts doesn't work properly, we don't move, we don't propel forward in a healthy way. So for me, it is about understanding that body, mind and soul combined is one voice, one moving body.
Okay, lovely. And let's talk a little bit about the process. So how easy, because I know that you love writing, but how easy or difficult was it to write? I think you had about 100 poems in there.
I did. I actually had a lot more. I just picked out the ones that I really loved. I started writing a while ago, so I had some of them for quite a while, and then a lot of them I had over lockdown. So when lockdown started, I began writing some more. The process was, I'm going to say it was easy because it was flowing, but it was also really painful. Because at the start of lockdown, I think, we were hearing about so much tragedy and there was so much change going on that for a lot of us, it was really quite traumatic. And that's what was kind of building up, is that we had all this time to sit on the things that, maybe we hadn't processed in a healthy way, or maybe we had just left to the side and forgotten about. And so my process really began as soon as lockdown started. So it kind of all just started to come out, like working. And I just jotted it down, and I just literally would, anything that came to mind, I would just write it and then go back. I never read as I'm writing.
Yeah.
So I always write
Same.
and then go back and read it and then
Yeah.
tweak it.
Exactly. So it's interesting. I think a lot of people had these experiences during lockdown where you literally are forced to go within. We're so busy on the outside world that when lockdown came, I think a lot of people did a lot of introspection. I think it's fantastic that you're able to channel that into actually writing and publishing your own book. So if you just tuned in, I'm speaking with Rio Merrix, who is the author of When in the Wilderness, beautiful anthology of poems that focus on the mind, body, and soul, split up into 3 different sections, covering topics such as relationships, self-love, mental health, and the rebuilding of oneself when life's heavy wind blows. I'm sure we all know about life's heavy wind blowing. Hello, Nicole, nice to see you. Thanks for coming in. If you can, please do share this out. I'm not able to share it out from where I am. So if you can, that would be amazing. Invite some followers as well. Thank you. So the process of writing them was fairly easy for you, although it was difficult to get out. What about the public? What was that moment where you realised when you contacted me, you were like, right, I'm ready? How did you know you were ready to publish?
I think when I'd written the poetry, there was something inside of me that when it was all done, there was something that just said, if you don't do this during this time when you have the time, when you've really poured your heart out, you'll really regret it. And it was kind of niggling in the back of my mind that was like, if you don't do this, it'll be something in 10, 20 years time where I'm sitting and thinking, why didn't I do that? It's something I really wanted to do. And so that's what made me initially reach out and be like, actually I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna put it out there.
That's such a powerful message as well, because I speak to so many people who've written something and it's amazing and it's 10 years ago and it's gathering dust underneath their bed or on a laptop because they've just allowed fear to paralyze them. And so I think it's great that you just said, if you came to that realization, if you don't do it now, you're going to regret it. So I'm so glad that you did. Talk to us about the publishing process, because I'm sure there are going to be people watching this, maybe watching now, who want to publish a book. They have no idea of what it entails. Like, can you just tell us a little bit about the journey? How did you find it? Is it what you expected?
Well, I'll start off by saying it was so easy because of you guys at Conscious Dreams. I'm not just saying that, I really mean it honestly. I had no idea. I think one of the main things that held me back for such a long time was that because it was my first book and I had no idea what I was doing, I really needed somebody to hold my hand through that process. And so from the moment that I reached out to you and I sent my manuscript across, it was just, it flowed so nicely. It was just a case of yourself reaching out to me and back and forth, and we were talking, and even the points where I was a little confused or I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, I knew that I could always go back to you and say, I don't know what's going on, or I don't know what I'm doing. And also it's a great way to sort of squash the nerves, because you know that you've got someone else with you that's on this journey with you, and that was really special to me also. But I think you don't realise the kind of things that go into this, and how much work does go into it, because I think there was one point where you were like, we were talking about the positioning of the poems in the book, and it was something in my mind that I thought, I had no idea that I would have to think about those things, and it really expanded my creative knowledge as well. It really expanded for me technically how things work, and it was a really great process, really eye-opening for me, a really great experience.
Amazing. And you're right with those little details, like, do you want white or gloss paper? She's got white or cream paper, you can't see. She went for cream, and that was the really good decision. I love it. I want to show some of the illustrations here. They're really simple.
They are.
But I think really effective. Hopefully, there you go. So images like that. What was your kind of idea behind some of these images?
I think I wanted the chapter openings to be very striking but simple, because again, I just think we're living in a world where we always think we need to be really out there with everything that we do, and I really wanted to kind of reverse things a little bit and try something different and go, something's really pulled me in about having simplicity, but really, you know, something being created that is so beautiful from something so simple. And I really loved that idea. So I ran with it, but I was also really picky about what I wanted, because as soon as I knew that's what I wanted to do, I knew what I was looking for.
Yeah.
I knew that I really wanted my cover to be, you know, something that was thought-provoking and striking. So I wanted to go more simple and a little bit more undertoned with the illustrations.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. I absolutely love your look at this cover, ladies and gents. Isn't that beautiful? It's so lovely. Normally it takes a couple of pictures to go through, but I think you found this straight away and it was like, yeah, this is the one.
Yeah.
Shanuma says, so pleased you wrote and published your book. Always love your writing. She can't wait to get a copy. Well, the book is available on pre-order. I'm going to pop the link in the comments in a sec, or when we've ended the interview, and then you can go on and order a copy of the book. It's released on the 28th of September, which is, oh my gosh, it's 3 days time, is it? No, I don't know what day we're on.
Monday.
So we're on the 23rd, so that is 5 days. Yeah, 5-day countdown. Please do support Rio. We are putting posts out. Please do share. Please let people know about When in the Wilderness is coming out. There are lots of young girls and women who need this book. It's such an easy read. You can dip in and out of the poems, and it's really fantastic in terms of empowering young women and girls. And as you said, it is for anyone. You know, it's not exclusive. Doesn't necessarily exclude men. But for someone who works with young girls, I think it's a really powerful tool for young girls, in particular when it comes to body image and self-esteem. Shanua says she's already ordered it. Yay!
Yeah.
That's what we want. So I can't believe we're running out of time. How's this happened? What are your plans? What are your future plans now with your book? I know things are a little bit up in the air now, and we are living the online life. But are you planning to do any workshops? Are you going to have a launch? What's happening?
I would love to have a launch. Of course, we're going to have a launch. Yeah, when we can. I don't know when that's going to be, but when we can, we will definitely need to celebrate. But I hope this book actually brings more opportunity to collaborate with other women, to talk about experiences, to make meaningful connections that I hope I can continue to help empower and bring about conversation. And that's what I really hope for this book. I hope that it's really a foundation for me to sort of, you know, use my voice, or speak to other women who may want to use my voice to help other women in their field, in their circle too. So that's what this book is for. I think I would love to have something where I can continue to help young women with their body image and their self-esteem and their self-love journeys. Yeah, that's really what I hope for it, that I can continue to collaborate with amazing women.
Maybe an online, I'm just going to pop ideas in your head, an online summit, working with a group of women, speaking about body image, loving
You've
themselves.
read my mind, Danni.
Well, when I speak to them, I just see what they can do.
Yeah.
And definitely having some sort of online event. So yeah, I think it would be amazing. And going into schools at some stage when that's allowed, colleges, you know, running workshops based around some of the poems in the book. There's so much you can do. It's fantastic. I love it. Where can people find you, Rio, and where can people get the book?
So you can find me on Instagram at Rio Merrix. You can, the link is in my bio, actually, on my Instagram to order the book.
Nice.
And you can also find it on Amazon. type in When in the Wilderness by me, Rio Merrix, and you should be able to find it.
It's exciting, isn't it, to say that? Type in my name and the title of my book, and you'll see all the places. So it's
really
basically going to be available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Legal Book Depository. It's so many different places. Foils. Type it in and you'll find it. Or just follow Rio Merrix, and there's a link in her bio, and we'll also put the link in the comments as well. So to finish off, what would you say to somebody who has an amazing idea for a book? They feel they can empower so many people, but are just sitting in fear and doubt, and they're going to have those regrets. What would you say to them?
This is going to sound so harsh, but it's not about you. It is about the greater good. And I think if you remember that, and you remember about the people that you can affect and you can help and you can give something and make your mark, there will be no excuse. You'll have to write it, and you'll have to get it out there. Just remember that it isn't about you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Rio. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks for your comments. We will get back to your comments, whether you've commented now or whether you comment during the replay. Just type in #replay. That would be amazing. Join me, Daniela Blechner, for another episode of Book Journey Mentor Uncut next week, 7 p.m. GMT, 2 p.m. EST, where I'll be interviewing the awesome and amazing Julia Lynch, who is the founder of the Global Girl Project. Oh dear, I've just butchered the name. She's releasing a book which is coming out on the 11th of October called More Than One Voice. Changing Our World Starts with a Girl. Possible collaboration for you, Rio. It's an amazing initiative where they work with young girls in underdeveloped countries all over the world. They train them up in a particular skill so that they can be leaders in their own communities and inspire and empower other young girls in their community. So she'll be coming and speaking about some of these stories and talking about her project. And like I said, look, I've got the 2 books together. I think that means something.
Love it.
Thank you everyone so much for coming in. I have been Daniela Blechner, and I have been interviewing the awesome and amazing See you later. Bye.
Bye.